In the middle of America's bustling cities, there are corners that have been quietly abandoned. Once lively, now nearly silent, not because of any great disaster, but because their spark simply faded over time. The question is simple. If you had to live in one of these towns, could you make it? In Pulaski County, Missouri, there's a tiny community built on a sharp bend in the Big Piney River, a curve once so treacherous that people called it the Devil's Elbow. Life here used to be vibrant, especially after Route 66 came through, and a steel truss bridge was built in 1923. But its charm began to dim when the highway was rerouted through Hooker Cut in 1945. And it grew even quieter once Interstate 44 replaced the old road. A series of devastating floods, including major ones in 2017 and 2024, made it even harder for local businesses to survive. Today, Devil's Elbow is home to just a handful of residents, a tiny post office, and the occasional visitor drawn by kayaking trips along the Big Piney. While Devil's Elbow tells the story of a riverside town losing its bustle, Avilla's tale comes from deep within Missouri's farmland. Located in Jasper County, the town was founded in 1856 and once thrived as a key trading point on the Springfield-Carthage route. At its peak, Avilla's main street was packed with merchants and travelers. That changed when the railroad, and later the main highway, shifted to other routes. The lifeline of trade that fed the town was cut off. Shops shuttered, jobs disappeared, and the younger generation left to find futures elsewhere. Now, what remains are rows of aging homes, a small church, and quiet streets that seem to whisper stories from the days when Avilla was alive and buzzing. From Avilla, the road leads to Plew, a tiny dot in southwest Missouri whose name barely registers anymore. Once known as a small farming hub and a humble rest stop along old US Route 66, Plew welcomed travelers looking for gas or a hot cup of coffee. But when the main road was moved and traffic thinned, local businesses began to close one by one. Today, all you'll find are a few scattered houses, empty lots, and a weathered sign barely holding on. Interestingly, the name Plew is believed to be a twist on the word plow, a nod to its farming roots. Even if it's faded from most maps, Plew still holds a tiny place in Route 66 history. Drive along the winding roads of Phelps County and you'll catch a faint scent of grapes, proof that Rosati still clings to its Italian immigrant heritage. In the early 1900s, settlers planted vineyards here, and harvest season once brought the village to life. Baskets of ripe grapes filled the narrow roads, while wooden wine cellars carried the unmistakable smell of fermentation. Now, most of the vineyards have given way to empty fields, and many of the younger generation have moved to the city. Still, Rosati hasn't completely faded. St. Anthony's Old Church remains a gathering place, and a few dedicated vineyards continue to stand their ground, refusing to be forgotten. There's an irony to the name Paris Spring. It sounds grand, but the place is now so quiet you can hear your own footsteps. This small Lawrence County community was once a favorite stop along old Route 66, famous for its crystal-clear spring that refreshed travelers on their journey. Gas stations, grocery stores, and repair shops once thrived around it. But when the main highway shifted, Paris Spring began to lose its heartbeat. The water still flows, but now it mostly nourishes trees and dry soil. The old building stands silent, as if waiting for someone not just to pass through, but to begin writing a new chapter. Imagine a small town once kept alive by the screech of iron wheels on steel rails. That was Plano in its heyday. Tucked away in Greene County, this community grew around the railroad that served as both its economic lifeline and its social center. News arrived with the conductor, and the sound of a passing train meant life was moving as it should. Everything changed when that rail line was erased from the map. Houses began to empty, shop doors closed for good, and the main street lost its buzz. Today, Plano is like an old photograph tucked into a family album. Its shape still clear, but its colors faded with time. A bold name doesn't always promise a happy ending. Rescue, a tiny community in Lawrence County, proves the point. Despite its name, meaning to save, the village couldn't rescue itself from decline and has slowly slipped toward becoming a ghost town. Once, Rescue was a welcome stop for farmers and travelers moving along back roads between the larger towns of southwest Missouri. There was a general store, a modest gas station, and a spot where locals gathered to trade stories. But when traffic was rerouted, the flow of visitors disappeared. Without them, small businesses couldn't last. Today, only a handful of homes and weathered buildings remain, standing alone in wide fields as if staring blankly into the past. Not every small town ever enjoyed the spotlight. Even in its best days, Phelps, also in Lawrence County, was modest. It grew as a settlement serving farmers and traders along the rural stretches of southwest Missouri. There was no grand train station or bustling market square, just a row of small shops, a post office, and a dirt road that carried the town's rhythm. When family farms gave way to large-scale agriculture and young people left for education or work, the population dwindled. Now, Phelps is more likely to be found in old maps and archives than on roadside signs. Weathered wooden homes stand as quiet proof that a place can fade away without ever making headlines. Some villages are so tucked away, you only notice them if you pass right through. Almartha in Ozark County is one of those places. Once, it served as a small hub for the backcountry. There was a post office, a general store, and even the occasional roadside market. Life was simple, centered on farming and close-knit ties between neighbors. But when modern highways cut new routes and young residents moved away for school or work, Almartha began to vanish from memory. What's left are a few occupied houses, the shells of old buildings, and a faded sign that softly whispers, "There was once a warm, breathing community here." Still in Lawrence County, there's Spencer, essentially just a small crossroads along Old Route 66, but once buzzing with life for its size. There was a gas station, a general store that also sold everyday necessities, even a small garage, serving both travelers and locals. When the highway was rerouted in the early 1960s, customers vanished almost overnight. The store shut down, the gas pumps went dry, and Spencer slowly became a place you passed through, not a place you stopped. Unlike many ghost towns, its buildings haven't been left entirely to decay. A new owner has restored parts of them as a small tourist draw for Route 66 enthusiasts. So while Spencer no longer lives as it once did, it still has a faint pulse, thanks to people who refuse to let it disappear completely. On the banks of the Gasconade River lies Arlington, a village that once shined along the legendary Route 66. In its prime, the place bustled with cars pulling over, travelers grabbing a meal at the Riverside Cafe, and guests checking into small motels before heading back on the road. Music drifted from the local bar, mixing with the smell of roadside cooking, creating a warm, familiar hum of life. That all faded when a bypass was built and Interstate 44 took over the flow of traffic. Without visitors, businesses shuttered one by one. Today, only empty buildings, crumbling foundations, and the stories of those who once stopped here remain. A frozen snapshot of Route 66's golden era after the heartbeat was gone. Few would guess that a small crossroads could hold such a long story, but Albatross in Lawrence County does. Once, the general store here was the heart of life, a place to shop, swap news, and wait for the truck hauling in the harvest. The name Albatross is said to have come from its first store owner, who wanted something easy to remember, even though no such seabird ever flew over Missouri skies. When the main route shifted away, Albatross was swept out of the current of life. Now, only a house or two and a leaning old sign remain, faint traces of a spot that once pulsed in the middle of farm fields. It takes only a few hundred yards to walk Heatonville's main street, yet every step was once filled with signs of life. In the heyday of old US 66, cars lined up to refuel, get repairs, or stock up at the general store. When a faster new route opened, the stream of visitors dried up. Billboards faded, store doors were bolted shut, and the chirp of crickets replaced the rumble of engines. Now, Heatonville stands like an old photograph, its outline still intact, but missing the sound and color that once filled it. Just a few miles away, Halltown still clings to old Route 66. In the mid-20th century, this small town thrived on its row of shops, garages, and gas stations serving travelers from far and wide. But when Interstate 44 took the traffic, most of those businesses faded with it. Yet Halltown hasn't completely given up. Its old buildings now house antique shops, drawing collectors and Route 66 enthusiasts to stop by. Walking its quiet streets feels like stepping between two worlds, the frozen past and the present still fighting to breathe. In the early 1900s, Monark Spring in Newton County was a magnet for those who believed in the healing power of mineral water. Its springs became the center for summer camps, church gatherings, and family recreation. A small community grew around it, complete with an open-air stage and modest facilities for visitors. Everything changed after a massive flood in the late 1920s damaged much of the site. The flow of visitors dwindled, and life slowly slipped away. Today, Monarch Spring is little more than open fields and the memories of older generations of a time when the gentle trickle of its waters was the heartbeat of the entire community.